2,700 meters below the surface. No light has reached this depth in millions of years. The pressure here could collapse a submarine like a crushed can. And in this absolute darkness, something is moving. Fast. A sperm whale has been holding its breath for 52 minutes. Its heart beating 4 times per minute. And it just detected prey. The clicks start, sharp, deliberate, each one louder than a rocket launch. The whale is building an image of something it can't see, mapping every detail in total blackness. This isn't a story about whales. This is about the ocean's apex predator that we barely understand. The whale descends, not gradually, not carefully, like a falling stone wrapped in muscle. Every 10 meters, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. At 100 meters, it's like having a car sitting on every square inch of your body. At 500 meters, the whale's ribcage is flexing inward, compressing. At 1,000 meters, its lungs have completely collapsed. This isn't damage, this is design. The whale's body is rewriting the rules of mammalian biology in real time. Blood is being shunted away from everything non-essential. The intestines go dormant. The kidneys slow to near ting. Only 2 things matter now: the brain and the muscles that move the tail. And those muscles are black, not gray, not dark, black. They're packed so densely with myoglobin, oxygen-storing proteins, that they look like charcoal. The whale isn't breathing. It's running on oxygen cached in every fiber of its body. 2,400 meters, 2,600 meters, 2,700 meters. Then the echolocation intensifies. The clicks shift. Faster now, higher frequency. The whale has entered what researchers call buzz mode. It's locked on. What it's tracking is a Humboldt squid, nearly 2 meters long, hundreds of kilograms of muscle, tentacles, and intelligence. In its own right, an apex predator. But down here, in the sperm whale's domain, it's prey. The squid flees, propelling itself through darkness with jet bursts, changing direction unpredictably, releasing clouds of bioluminescent ink that would blind any visual predator. But the whale doesn't see, it hears. And ink doesn't hide acoustic signatures. The whale's jaw opens, a thin lower jaw studded with conical teeth. And in one precise movement, it closes around the squid. The entire capture takes less than 2 seconds. No struggle, no chase, just geometry, timing, and acoustic precision, executed in absolute darkness at depths that would kill almost anything else on Earth. Then the whale turns and begins the long ascent toward light. If you just realized that the largest predators in the ocean hunt in a world we literally cannot survive in, hit subscribe. Because what happens next gets even stranger. Here's what makes sperm whales almost impossible to study. They spend more than 75% of their lives in a place humans cannot reach. We've put people on the moon. We've sent rovers to Mars. We've photographed galaxies billions of light years away. But we cannot follow a sperm whale through an average day. The deepest a human has, free-dived, is 214 meters. The deepest submarines regularly operate at around 6,000 meters. Sperm whales hunt at 2,000 to 3,000 meters routinely. Some dives have been recorded at nearly 4,000 meters. That's deeper than the wreck of the Titanic. And they do this dozens of times per day. Dive, hunt, surface. Breathe, rest, dive again. For hours, for days, for their entire lives. A rhythm we've barely documented, let alone understood. But occasionally, something happens at the surface that gives us a glimpse. And when it does, it changes everything we thought we knew. Scientists were tracking a pod of sperm whales off the coast of Sri Lanka. Standard behavioral observation, logging dive times, surfacing patterns, group dynamics. Then the entire pod stopped moving, not stopped hunting, stopped moving completely. 9 whales, all vertical in the water, heads pointed down toward the abyss, tails just breaking the surface, perfectly still, like a forest of gray pillars suspended in blue. They weren't breathing, they weren't clicking, they weren't responding to boats. For nearly 20 minutes, they just hung there, motionless. Then, as if synchronized by some invisible signal, they all surfaced at once, breathed, and resumed normal behavior. No one knows what that was. The best hypothesis, sleep. But sleeping vertically, in formation, for exactly 20 minutes? We have no framework for understanding what we witnessed. And that's just one mystery in an ocean of them. We don't know how they navigate across entire ocean basins with pinpoint accuracy. We don't know how they choose dive sites. We don't know how deeply they actually sleep, or whether they dream. We don't know why some whales will approach boats while others flee. We don't know how they decide which squid to hunt and which to ignore. For an animal that weighs up to 57,000 kilograms, that has a brain larger than any other creature that has ever lived, that has been on Earth for over 20 million years, we know almost nothing about its daily existence. What we do know comes from fragments, scars, sounds, rare encounters that last minutes. We're studying shadows of an intelligence we can barely comprehend. Let's talk about what happens inside a sperm whale's head, because it's genuinely one of the strangest biological structures that evolution has ever produced. A sperm whale's head is roughly 1/3 of its total body length. That's 5 to 6 meters of skull filled with something that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature. It's called the spermaceti organ, and it's basically a massive chamber filled with waxy oil, up to 1,900 liters of it in adult males. That's enough to fill a small car. But this isn't blubber. This isn't fat storage. This is an acoustic weapon. Here's how it works. Sound originates deep in the whale's nasal passages. Not in the throat, not in the mouth, in the nose. The sound wave travels forward through the spermaceti oil, which acts as an acoustic lens, focusing and amplifying the signal. The wave bounces off the front of the skull, reflects back through the oil again, hits an air sac at the rear, and fires forward in a tight directional beam. The result? Clicks measuring up to 236 decibels. To put that in perspective, a rock concert is about 120 decibels. A jet engine at full thrust is 140 decibels. A gunshot at close range is 160 decibels. Each 10 decibel increase represents a 10-fold increase in intensity. A sperm whale click is not just loud. It's one of the loudest biological sounds ever recorded. Louder than a blue whale's call. Louder than a pistol shrimp's cavitation bubble. In terms of raw acoustic energy, nothing even comes close. Divers who've been near clicking sperm whales describe it as feeling the sound pass through their body, not hearing it, feeling it, like being hit in the chest. Some report their vision vibrating. Others describe a tingling sensation in their bones as the sound resonates through tissue and marrow. At the 6,000 character mark, if you're realizing that sperm whales are using sound as a physical force in ways we are only beginning to understand, smash that subscribe button, because the way they use this weapon gets even more sophisticated. Because here's the thing, the whale isn't just making noise, it's reading echoes. When the click hits an object, it bounces back. The whale's brain processes the returning echo and constructs a three-dimensional acoustic image, not a picture, an image made of sound. With resolution so precise that researchers believe sperm whales can detect the internal structure of objects, they can tell the difference between species of squid by echo signature alone. They can distinguish size, distance, speed, and direction of movement. They can map the seafloor, detect other whales miles away, and navigate through complete darkness with accuracy that makes human sonar look primitive. This is biosonar evolved to an extreme we didn't think was possible in mammals. And it gets stranger. Sperm whales don't just click for hunting, they click to communicate. And those communication patterns are so complex that some researchers think they might constitute a true language. The patterns are called codas, sequences of clicks arranged in rhythmic patterns. 1, 1, 3. 3 clicks, pause, 3 clicks, pause, 1, 4, 1. 1 click, pause, 4 rapid clicks, pause, 1 click. 3, 2, 1. 3 clicks, pause, 2 clicks, pause, 1 click. Each coda is distinct, repeated, recognized by other whales across distances up to 10 kilometers. Here's where it gets strange. Different populations use different codas. Whales in the Caribbean don't click the same patterns as whales off New Zealand. Pods traveling together develop shared signatures, identifying them to other groups. This isn't instinct, it's learned, culture in the truest sense. Researchers recorded a young whale practicing codas, over and over, getting timing wrong, adjusting, trying again, like a child learning to speak. until it finally matched the pattern used by its family group. Teaching, learning, transmission across generations through imitation. This is cultural evolution in real time. In 2021, the CD Projekt deployed AI to analyze decades of recordings, millions of clicks, thousands of hours, looking for patterns humans can't detect. The preliminary results are staggering. The codas show evidence of syntax, rules governing how clicks combine. Certain patterns only appear in specific contexts. Others seem to function as identifiers, names possibly for individual whales. If this holds up, we're still years from confirmation. It would mean sperm whales aren't just communicating, they're speaking, using a language with structure, rules, and potentially meaning that rivals human complexity. And we have no idea what they're saying. Imagine that. An animal with a brain 6 times larger than ours, living in a world we've never seen, speaking in a code we've only just begun to recognize as language. And despite decades of research, we can't understand a single word. What are they talking about? Are they sharing information about hunting grounds? Warning each other about threats? Telling stories? We don't know. We're standing at the edge of first contact with an intelligence that's been on Earth longer than we have, and we can't even say hello. For most of human history, we didn't see sperm whales as intelligent. We saw them as monsters. In the 1700s, sailors called them Leviathan, Behemoth, Sea Devils. Ships would cross the Atlantic and encounter them in fog, a massive square head emerging from gray water, breathing out a cloud of mist that smelled like decay, making sounds like hammering on the hull from below. Crews thought they were being haunted. Some believed sperm whales were demons. Others thought they were the Kraken from Norse mythology, the beast that dragged ships to the bottom. Because when you're on a wooden vessel in the middle of the ocean and something 18 meters long surfaces next to you, breathing and clicking and watching, you don't think whale, you think nightmare. And then there were the scars. When whalers started killing sperm whales in numbers large enough to examine them, they found marks, circular impressions covering their heads, some nearly 30 centimeters across, ringed with smaller cuts, sucker scars from tentacles. If whales were fighting something that left marks that large, what in God's name were they hunting? The myth of the giant squid wasn't invented by sailors telling stories. It was discovered on the bodies of whales, evidence of battles happening thousands of meters down, where no human had ever been. Fights between titans in absolute darkness. But the fear became real in November 1820. The whaling ship Essex was hunting sperm whales 3,700 kilometers off the coast of South America. They'd successfully killed one whale and were processing it when the lookout spotted another, a large male, roughly 26 meters long, swimming directly toward the ship. The crew assumed it would dive. Whales always dove, but this one didn't. It rammed the Essex head-on, a direct strike to the bow. The impact was so violent it threw crew members off their feet. The ship lurched backward in the water. Before anyone could react, the whale turned, swam out about 100 meters, and charged again. The second strike stove in the hull. The Essex began taking on water. Within minutes, it was clear the ship was sinking. The crew abandoned ship. 20 men in 3 small boats, thousands of kilometers from land, no rescue possible. The Essex sank, taking most of their supplies with it. Over the next 3 months, the survivors endured unimaginable conditions: starvation, dehydration, madness. Some resorted to cannibalism. Only 8 men survived. When they finally reached land and told their story, no one believed them. A whale deliberately attacking a ship? Impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. Ship logs, multiple witnesses, physical wreckage. It happened. 30 years later, Herman Melville heard those stories and wrote Moby Dick. The white whale wasn't fiction. It was trauma given a name. Fear of an intelligence that seemed aware, calculated, and capable of revenge. But fear turned into profit. Inside that massive head, inside the spermaceti organ, was oil unlike anything humans had found. Spermaceti oil was liquid perfection. It didn't smoke when burned, it didn't freeze, it didn't spoil. It burned brighter and cleaner than any other fuel available, and it lubricated machinery better than anything else on Earth. Suddenly, sperm whales became the most valuable animals on the planet. Each whale could yield 2,000 to 3,000 liters of high-grade oil. A single hunt could pay a crew's wages for months. The Industrial Revolution ran on sperm whale oil. Factories, streetlights, textile machines, all dependent on oil extracted from whales. The hunt began. Whaling ships left ports and didn't return for years. Crews crossing oceans, hunting pods systematically, killing thousands. The process was brutal. Harpoons thrown, whales thrashing as steel tore flesh, the ocean turning red. Their blows turning from white to crimson as blood filled their lungs. And the sounds. Low moaning calls that carried kilometers. Distress signals. Other whales hearing their family dying. Mothers positioned between boats and calves. Some pods fought back, smashing boats, pulling crews underwater. But they couldn't fight industrial slaughter. By the mid-1800s, fleets from America, Britain, Japan, Norway competed for the same populations. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of whales killed. Sperm whales don't reproduce quickly. Females mature at age 9. Gestation lasts 15 months. One calf every 5 to 7 years. Killing thousands annually collapses populations. Estimates suggest humans killed 1 to 1.5 million sperm whales. Regional populations driven to near extinction. Genetic diversity erased in decades. By the 1980s, populations were at historic lows. Then in 1986, the International Whaling Commission enacted a global moratorium. Too late for many, but just in time for some. Numbers have slowly recovered, not to pre-hunting levels, but they're no longer on the immediate edge of extinction. They survived. Barely. To understand how they survived, we need to understand what they are, because sperm whales aren't just large, they're biologically impossible. The pressure at 3,000 meters is roughly 300 atmospheres. That's 300 times the pressure at the surface, enough to compress air tanks into solid metal, enough to implode a submarine, enough to crush bone into fragments. Sperm whales do this casually, dozens of times per day, for their entire lives. Here's how. First, the lungs. When a sperm whale dives, its lungs don't stay inflated. They collapse. Completely. This isn't damage, it's intentional. Collapsing the lungs prevents nitrogen from dissolving into the bloodstream, the same process that gives human divers decompression sickness. No air in the lungs means no nitrogen absorption. No nitrogen means no bends. The rib cage flexes inward. The bones don't break because they're not rigid. They're flexible, connected by cartilage that bends under pressure instead of snapping. Second, oxygen storage. The whale can't breathe underwater, so it stores oxygen in its blood and muscles. Its blood has hemoglobin concentrations far higher than terrestrial mammals, and its muscles are packed with myoglobin, a protein that binds oxygen directly. So much myoglobin that the muscle tissue is black, not dark red, black, like charcoal. This is why sperm whale meat looks the way it does. It's essentially oxygen-saturated muscle fiber. Third, the heart. At the surface, a sperm whale's heart beats 60 to 70 times per minute. During a dive, it drops to 10, sometimes less. The whale is shutting down everything non-essential. Blood flow to the digestive system stops. Blood flow to the kidneys stops. Only the brain and the muscles that power the tail keep receiving oxygen. It's a controlled near-death state. The whale is putting itself on the edge of shutdown, redirecting resources to only what matters for the hunt. And it can sustain this for over 90 minutes. The longest recorded dive was 138 minutes, more than 2 hours without breathing. No other mammal does this. No other animal of this size can survive this depth. Sperm whales exist in a category of one. But the most extraordinary organ isn't the lungs or the heart or the muscles, it's the brain. A sperm whale's brain weighs approximately 8 kilograms, the largest brain of any animal that has ever existed. Larger than an elephant's, larger than any dinosaur's, larger than any whale species, living or extinct. For context, a human brain weighs about 1.4 kilograms. Now, size doesn't directly equal intelligence. Intelligence is about structure, connectivity, and processing capacity. But sperm whale brains have something we didn't expect. They have spindle neurons, specialized cells associated with social cognition, empathy, communication, and self-awareness. These neurons appear in only a few species: humans, great apes, elephants, and certain cetaceans. But here's the thing: sperm whales have had these neurons for over 15 million years. Humans evolved them about 3 million years ago. They've had the neural architecture for complex social behavior, possibly compassion, possibly self-awareness, for 5 times longer than we have. What does that mean? We don't know. We can't know. We can't access their subjective experience. We can't measure consciousness, but we can observe behavior. And the behavior suggests something profound. There's a moment that happens sometimes, a moment that changes people. You're diving in open water, blue in every direction, no bottom, no reference point, just you, suspended in an enormous liquid void, and then you see it. A shadow, moving slowly, massive, getting closer. A sperm whale, 15 meters long, 40,000 kilograms, swimming directly toward you. You can't move, you can't flee. You're weightless, vulnerable, completely exposed. The clicking starts, not loud at first, deliberate, measured. The whale is scanning you, building an acoustic image of your body from the inside out. Your lungs, your ribs, your heartbeat. It knows you better than you know yourself. And then it stops. Right in front of you, close enough to touch. You're looking at an eye the size of your fist. And it's looking back, not just seeing you, looking at you, observing, considering. Then something happens that shouldn't be possible. The whale tilts its body, positioning itself vertically, head down, so it can look at you directly with one eye. The clicks change, softer, different patterns, almost conversational. And in some encounters, in moments that leave people unable to speak afterward, the whale responds, not to sound, to movement. When a diver raises a hand, the whale adjusts position. When a diver swims slowly, the whale matches pace. It's not hunting, it's not investigating, it's interacting. These aren't stories, these are documented encounters. Video exists. Dozens of divers have experienced this. And the pattern is consistent. Sperm whales approach humans with what appears to be curiosity, not aggression, not fear, curiosity, despite everything we've done to them. The centuries of slaughter, the million dead, the near extinction. When we enter their world, defenseless and small, they don't flee, they don't attack. They try to understand us. Giants with the power to kill us with a single movement, choosing instead to communicate, to connect, to reach across the evolutionary gulf and try to make contact. This is the part that breaks you, because it forces a question we don't want to answer. If they're this intelligent, if they're this aware, if they've been communicating in complex ways for millions of years, what did we destroy when we hunted them? We didn't just kill animals, we killed cultures, languages, family groups that had traveled the same migration routes for thousands of generations. Individuals that knew things, remembered things, taught things that are now lost forever. And they know. On some level, they have to know. They bear the scars, the species memory of ships and harpoons and blood in the water. And yet, when we approach them now, without weapons, they let us close. That's not just intelligence. That's something else. Something we don't have a word for. But there's one more thing about sperm whales that most people don't know. They're not just inhabitants of the ocean. They're engineers. Every time a sperm whale dives, it brings nutrients from the deep ocean to the surface. When it defecates after feeding, it releases iron and nitrogen in its waste. These nutrients fuel phytoplankton blooms. And phytoplankton are the foundation of the marine food web. They also produce oxygen, lots of it. About 50% of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere comes from phytoplankton. So sperm whales, through a process called the whale pump, are literally helping to oxygenate the planet. But it gets bigger. Phytoplankton also capture carbon dioxide. When they die, they sink to the ocean floor, taking that carbon with them. It's sequestered, removed from the atmosphere for thousands of years. Scientists estimate that a single sperm whale, over its lifetime, has the carbon sequestration impact of thousands of trees. A healthy population could influence global climate patterns, and when they die, they fall to the seafloor and create whale falls. A single whale carcass can sustain an entire deep sea ecosystem for 100 years. Bone-eating worms, crabs, sharks, fish, an entire community living off one body. death becoming an ecosystem, life becoming life. Sperm whales don't just live in the ocean, they shape it, they sustain it. They are architects of an entire planetary system we're only beginning to understand. We started in darkness, 2,700 meters down, watching a predator hunt using sound in a world without light. And we've traveled through time, through terror and slaughter and survival and mystery, through brains too large to comprehend and sounds too loud to survive, through language we can't decode and encounters that feel like first contact. Sperm whales are not normal. Nothing about them makes sense by the standards of mammalian biology. They dive too deep, they hold their breath too long, their brains are too large, their communication too complex, their forgiveness too complete. They are extremes in every direction, and despite nearly destroying them, despite hunting them to the edge of extinction, they're still here, still diving, still clicking, still speaking in languages we haven't learned. And when we enter their world now, not as hunters but as witnesses, they turn around, they look at us, and they try to connect. If this journey into the deepest darkness of the ocean changed how you see the intelligence we share this planet with, subscribe and join us as we explore more creatures that prove life is stranger, more sophisticated, and more profound than we ever imagined. The ocean is full of minds we've never met, and some of them have been waiting millions of years for us to finally listen.